At the top of the hour here, so I'm going to get us started here as we do on the show. Welcome everyone to What Keeps You Up at Night, Entrepreneurship During Challenging Times. My name is Colin Weston. I am the community leader for Startup Vancouver, which is one of over 40 community chapters of Startup Canada across this great country of ours. And if you don't know, Startup Canada is the voice for the over 3.5 million entrepreneurs across this country. And we support entrepreneurs, everybody. Make it welcoming, inviting for all, no matter age, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, your background, tech, non-tech. We love you all, whether you're a bunch of broke, bootstrapped entrepreneurs or you're along your way and you're scaling your business up. Everybody's welcome. And the conversations we have here on the show, we certainly do that. And today is no exception. We have three diverse, dynamic guests here that are within our national innovation ecosystem, covering a couple of time zones here, which is what we like to do. And we'd love to have someone from every time zone, but we've got two time zones. We've got Quest that's representing the Vancouver area. Oh, she's got to go in there. And we also have some other friends that are a little closer to us from the greater Vancouver area. So today, get up and running here. We are going to do a little intro here as I do, just to get us started at the top of the show. So today, like I said, three awesome guests here. They're always awesome, but today is no exception to that. So we've got Pete, who's the founder of The Common. He's up in Squamish. I'm going to let him tell a little more about the great things that they're doing up there, especially during these socially distanced times and how they've had to innovate and pivot for what they're creating there. And I'd like to consider my new friend, Quest Atkinson, being super nice to her because I do want to get some chocolate eventually to try the things that she is creating out of Toronto. And she's the founder and head chocolatier for Quest XO Chocolate. So yeah, I'm just getting hungry. My sweet tooth is just getting ramped up here to hear about all the great things that Quest is doing there as an entrepreneur in the chocolate and confectionery space. And then, I can't believe it's taken so long, Hussein, for us to have you on our show here, but Hussein Hallak has been an amazing community builder within the Vancouver and British Columbia and Canadian ecosystem here, the work he was doing with Launch Academy for years, and what he's doing as an entrepreneur. And to go to learn about what he's doing as co-founding Traction Health today in the conversation. So, of course, I have my amazing co-hosts here with Maryam and Reza, who I'm going to share the screen with in a second here, and see how they're doing here today. So, once again, to get us going here, Startup Vancouver. Best way to connect with us, social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Also, our LinkedIn page, which is back up. I heard LinkedIn was broken for an hour or so earlier on, but apparently they figured out their problems. So you can connect with our community there. And also on YouTube, very active there now. Look at that, we broke that 100 subscriber barrier that we were looking to meet a couple of weeks ago. We did that. So every single show we do here, we do post it on there. So yeah, we've got over 120 amazing conversations that we've had on there, plus all of the speaker series from our canned startup stories that we do every 2 months. The previous one, you can see Maryam up there. She was part of our Mental Health Awareness for Entrepreneurs, Canned Startup Stories speaker series. And the next one we have coming up is on March 17th as part of International Women's Month, and that is celebrating women entrepreneurs. So stay tuned for that. We love to make this an interactive and engaging conversation. So after we finish up our conversations one-on-one with our guests, with our co-hosts, we're going to open it up to the audience, both here on Zoom and also on Facebook. You got any questions? Hey, if you're feeling bold and you're not shy, we'll open up the mic or even turn your video on if you want. So let us know in chat any questions you have, any conversation you want to have along the way. We are very proud to have as a charity partner Jack.org, and Jack.org is Canada's only national charity that supports mental health advocacy. And they do this at a grassroots level by having young people in schools and in our communities be those grassroots advocates to support each other, to help to remove the stigma and break the silence around mental health. And we're very proud to say that we've raised over $1,000 on the show here. And anytime we actually get a donation, At the end of the show, I do my little musical shout out, and today will be no exception because we do have a donation, and I'll be singing at the end. So stick around for that if you dare. So, as I mentioned earlier, today on the show, so Quest Atkinson, her and I are going to finish up the show with our conversation. In the middle, we're going to have Hussein and Reza have a chat. And to start things off with Pete, I believe it goes by Pete rather than Peter. Either one, it sounds like it works. But all the good things that he's doing up in beautiful Squamish with the Common. So with that, we're going to start with the segment that that we've done the last couple of weeks. We're going to continue with this. This is how are we showing gratitude? What are we thankful for? So show's always on Tuesday. So as it always is, it is Gratitude Tuesday. So with that, I'm going to get everybody up on screen here and just have a quick little, if we can just do like 2 or 3 minutes here, each one of us. So I'm going to start off, Quest, I'm going to start with you. What is some small little thing that that you're thankful or grateful for today in your life?
Well, thank you for starting with me. There's one thing. And in truth, I can't just be thankful for just one thing. So there are really briefly a few things that I'm thankful for. First and foremost, I'm thankful for this show and what I hope will be an opportunity to talk about mental health in the entrepreneurship landscape, something that's very meaningful to me. Also incredibly thankful for my ride or die, my best friend, my husband, who's been with me through all of the highs and the lows and the sassy in-betweens over these years. And I'm also grateful for all of the challenges that I've had with my mental health and just getting the opportunity to really just speak into other people's lives and hold their hands and walk the journey with them, because I have this interesting perspective from someone who's struggled with anxiety and depression my whole life. So those are the 3-4 things I'm thankful for today.
Thank you for sharing those with us. I appreciate that. Just showing your vulnerability there and having the courage to say that. So thank you, Quest, for that. So Peter, looks like it's sunny up in Squamish there today. What are you grateful for besides the a little bit of sun?
Apart from Squamish itself, yeah. A couple of things, and thanks to that segue, Quest. I'm going to also jump on the bandwagon of health. As you are supportive of mental health, I could go down that road, but I just came out of surgery last week. And so I got in there really quickly, and both through that experience and other experiences in Canada, the health system has always been phenomenal here. So I want to shout out, obviously, during COVID, they did a fantastic job. And then my segue to what I'll be touching on maybe today with Maryam is community. We're going through some really struggling and difficult times, but there's so many opportunities, and I think those opportunities have become really apparent through the people that have been surrounding you. And so that's what's happened for me over the last few months. And just yesterday, when I didn't speak to Maryam, we had a good conversation and caught up. And then before that, I had a conversation with another startup entrepreneur. He was giving me some advice, and we're having a great conversation. So community is a very big one.
Amazing. And we're gonna get to that more, and when we talk, would love to, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you two are going to do that in just a minute or so here. But before that, Hussein, my friend, what are you grateful for today?
First of all, well, thanks for having me, and thanks for inviting me for such a promising conversation. There's chocolate involved, so the first thing on my mind is, can I get some chocolate somehow? What can I do to get some chocolate? So that's what's on my mind, to be honest. I think I know that I'm grateful for being in Canada for sure. So for those who don't know, 7 years ago, I wasn't in Canada. So I think I'm every day that I wake up in this country, in this community that I'm surrounded with, the startup community in Canada, I'm very, very grateful for. Definitely grateful for my family. We're all healthy in such a trying time for everybody around. So I think that's put more emphasis on that. It's always been for me as an entrepreneur, as long as my family is healthy and we're well, I can take on any risk. So I'm definitely forever thankful for that. And I would say gratitude to all the people who are willing to help others, because they are somehow helping me, helping the community, helping everyone else in some different ways that they may never find what they are. And that's why that's what drives me every day, that whenever I feel a little bit down, or there are insurmountable kind of challenges along the way, which is the life of an entrepreneur. I remind myself that there are others that are doing the same for other people and helping them. So whenever I feel, tired, should I take another call for someone I don't know to mentor and to give them, and to help them? I remind myself that other people have done that for me all the time. So I kick myself out of bed. Well, usually my wife kicks me out. It's like, wake up, go make some money for us, and then I get back to work and have the energy and build up the energy for it. So
Nice.
that's what I'm grateful for.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. And Maryam, how about yourself? How besides your comfy couch behind you, what are you grateful for?
Well, first of all, I am loving these in-depth answers, and thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to give us like a very in-depth explanation. And I resonated with everything that you all said. Like, I'm grateful for my mental health, grateful for community, and what a great reminder, Hussein, of just being here, and grateful for being in Canada. I've been living here for the past 24 years, and sometimes you just forget and how my life would be totally different if I was still back in Iran. So grateful for that, and really grateful for having a really good night's sleep. So that really energizes me, and I just woke up super happy. Didn't have any lucid dreams this time, but it was good. It was definitely a good night's sleep. So
Thankful
thank
for
you for that.
that. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Reza V, how about you? What are you grateful for today?
I'm very grateful for the people I'm surrounded with. It's as if I'm on a lucky, what do you call it, every person I meet adds something to my life, and they are there for a purpose. And I'm like, can I be that lucky that I'm just meeting good people after good people and there's nobody bad in there? I don't know. So I'm crossing my finger I can keep the luck. And I want to be the person in their life the same way they're affecting my life. So I always feel the responsibility that I need to be there for them as well. And I'm very grateful about the people I'm surrounded with.
Wonderful. And that resonates with me also. Pete, you touched on this also, this community, and Reza, you did also. And so the work that I do was start in Vancouver, and a lot of people say, why do you put in so much time and why do you do this? And it really is the community of awesome humans that I get surrounded and by and introduced to. And even yesterday when I was kind of feeling kind of meh, feeling kind of down, feeling like a lot of people, feeling just kind of burnt out at times. And I got introduced to two awesome people, one in the golf innovation space that I'm quite active in, of course, with some of the work that I do there in the sports technology space, but also with the upcoming Can Startup Stories Celebrating Women Entrepreneurs event that we're going to do. So I got introduced to this young woman out of Toronto. She's 14 years old. And I just had to have her on the as one of our speakers. Just talk to her and the work that she's doing, and just the energy, that kind of that pure, unfiltered, awesome energy that she had. It just lifted me up. And I'm just so lucky and so privileged to have such a community of awesome people that I keep getting introduced to. That just makes my life better. And lastly, I want to say, I want to show gratitude and express gratitude to our attendees and our guests that are here today. Sometimes we have 15 or 20 or 30. Today we have 3, but I want to thank them. And we're talking quality over quantity today, but Dave and Hiroki, who's in for the 3rd week in a row from Tokyo, who's here, so obviously staying up late or waking up early, depending on what the time is there right now, and also Josie, one of my students at Global Startup School. If the 3 of you have anything you want to add, and even type in chat of what you're grateful for, let us know and we'll read that out during the show. So with that, I want to now hand it over, going on gallery view here, go over to speaker view, and I'm going to hand it over to Maryam and Pete, and looking forward to your conversation here. So Maryam, take it away.
Thank you. Actually, Hiroki is now in Vancouver. He arrived last week and he tuned in to Startup Vancouver last week. And he's been connecting with the community. He's very active,
cool.
actually. So yeah, definitely connect with him. And I love how our our panelists here are also taking initiative and typing up something about themselves and how everyone can connect with them. So thanks. Thank you for doing that. And yeah, really excited to chat with Pete. I know him and I can talk for hours, and we were worried how this session is going to go. We might take over. But welcome, Pete. I'm super excited to chat with you about the future of co-working. And I know how, you know, Pete, he's very humble. He doesn't often say it, but he's like one of the most innovative people. He's like a very creative mind, and he thinks in a very innovative way, and he's always up to really exciting things. So I know you're not gonna say anything about that, but you know.
Eventually, I'm just waiting.
So
Yeah.
tell us about tell us about the comment. What was going through your mind when COVID hit? Yeah. So what's going on? Tell us.
Well, I was going to do like a before and after story, because I think any entrepreneur will recognize when they start a business, it's like you forget what you've done over a period of time. And I have to be. I'm quite honest about where I am. So I'm currently been 4 or 5 years into the business. Now we're getting an option on our lease, so we're having to renegotiate our lease, and it's like that time COVID's hit, and you're like, well, which direction should I go? Should we keep going? And because of that, I started looking at photos, and I looked at some photos of what this place looked like when we took it over, and I was like, holy crap, it's not quite the same as what it looks now. So if you want me to do that, I can do like a 30-second video of what it looked like. I don't know how to do that, so Maryam, you just let me know when a good time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And where to start? I mean, my memory is terrible, so I'll talk about yesterday. We had, this is where Maryam said about my entrepreneurial, sort of always looking at those different opportunities and building community. So, I had a problem with, say, a sales rep for one of our co-working space software. And because over the last 3-4 years, I've loved this piece of software. So if anybody is in the co-working space and looking for software, Office R&D are like this awesome company. And the reason they're awesome because, I've dealt with a couple of tech startups. I've never seen somebody do a software release where it's been nailed every single time. They've got a roadmap that is on point. They don't get distracted by crazy ideas. And so this company, whenever you have a problem, you actually get hold of the tech guys, but their support people are going, wait a minute, let me just look in the back end and I'll fix it. Oh yeah, I fixed it for you. Does it work now? And I'm just like, wow, that's a company you want to deal with. So yesterday, my conversation was with the global sales director for Office R&D, and we just started talking about, what's happening, but the future of co-working. So Squamish has really been bizarre way. Squamish is an odd way of having co-working in its community, because if you think about Vancouver pre-COVID, you needed an office space because either you couldn't afford one that really expensive, or because you're living at home, you couldn't really work at home. So that's what majority of people use co-working space for. They were there Monday to Friday. They were there a good chunk of time. In Squamish, when we set up, we realized it's a completely different customer. People are only wanting to come to the co-working space 1 to 2 days a week. And because of that, we were like, well, that's our client. And ironically now, that is, after talking to Office R&D yesterday, that's the future. It's like this flexi space. And so they're talking about how their opportunity could be really fantastic, because it's gone from co-working software to flexi space software, i.e. that software could be used in multiple organizations, offices that are currently sitting empty, they could start using it. And so what we started as a journey in Squamish, because it was a unique community of people who are very talented, people that really only needed 1 to 2 days a week. And what they were looking for is community. They were looking for people just to get out of home. And I have people who are CEOs, who are medium to large size businesses, who are in the startup space. And a lot of them said to me, we've already got a really nice office at home, but we want to connect with the community. So going back to your question of what happened, do you want me to delve into that sort of COVID time?
Yeah. And I want to, if you could show us what the pods look like, that would be great.
Yes. So I touched on, what I'm really grateful for, which is community. And I was saying to Maryam yesterday, I said, you know, when you start a business, and I think Hussein, you just talked about it for a second there, where, you know, somebody's giving you a call and you're like, oh, should I help this person? And I find that what's kept me alive, and I'm not going to say thrive, because I'm not going to, you know, lie by going, oh my God, everything's fantastic and we're crushing it and we've got thousands of members, because COVID has created some really unique situation where people really want to come in, but they're told not to come in. So we're in this weird twilight zone. But by creating really strong relationships with different people in different sectors, suddenly these unknown opportunities come up. And maybe that, Reza, that's where you're going to, like, oh, suddenly you're meeting these people. It's because you don't realize that by giving and like just having honest conversations with people, suddenly things come up. So the story, which was one I want to share, and then I'll show you what they look like, was right at COVID. So building those relationships started with our members. When COVID hit, the government was saying, hey, we don't want you to go into the office. We don't want you to get out of your home, just stay at home. And even to an extent that after a few weeks, they were saying, yeah, you can go into your office now. So in theory, we were completely open, because we had 1,400 square feet. We had, you know, just a few sort of full-time members at the time. So they could have had a few hundred square feet each. It wasn't a problem, but they didn't want to come in. But they also didn't cancel their memberships. They said, we really want to support the common. We really love it being there, and we want it to be there when we come back. And so when a member told me that, I was like, oh my God, that really shows that we haven't just built a building. We haven't just created these desks. We've created so much more than that, and so much support from our members. So that was the first thing. Then after a few weeks, I was checking in with members saying, you know, how's things going? And one of our members, Mara, she's a immigration lawyer for US immigration law. And she was like, yeah, great. And this woman could work on a milk crate. She worked for like overseas in Africa doing support stuff. And she said, yeah, it's good. It's a little bit hard at the moment because, you know, my husband, he's also an immigration lawyer, Canadian. And we have like a 1-2 in place, and it got a bit tight in there. So I'm working out of my car right now. And I'm like, whoa. What? You can't be doing immigration law out of your car. This doesn't make sense. So like, what can we do? She said, well, I don't really want to come in the main space. Our next door neighbor, Sean, he was in the process of working out what he was going to do. And he had this shed sitting in his car park. And I can show you the shed in a second. And I said, hey, you know that shed you've got? What's the chance of us putting a bit of insulation in there, throwing a window in there, and we turn the shed into an office? Because we've got this member who needs somewhere. And he said, yeah. And I said, I haven't really got anywhere to put it. Do you mind if you keep it on your side of the fence? I don't want to upset the landlord, which I eventually did. But we try and work out that sort of harmonious thing. I'll give you a little bit of money. In fact, whatever money I make, you can keep your family happy, and we'll see if it works. We did that for a few weeks, and then the members started coming back, and they're like, wow, these are really awesome. That's a great idea. We should get one. So then suddenly it went from the need of supporting a member to looking at what my next door neighbor was doing in his business and saying, hey, how can we create a bit of community here? And it was the good relationship with the next door neighbor and the good relationship with, and the trust that we built with a member that allowed us to like experiment a little bit. And so I'm actually a terrible entrepreneur because I'm really great at experimenting, but I'm not always that great at running a business. So like, yeah, if you want any startup ideas, I can come out with loads of great ideas. Anyway, so we move forward, and I can now do it before and after Maryam, but that was the short story of COVID, and there was many more.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing that I want to highlight about you is that what's so great is that when other entrepreneurs, and maybe that's a little bit takeaway, is be listening to your clients, your customers. You like really listening to what their needs are, right? Like empathizing with them and be human, you know, and just really seeing like, okay, how can I provide value for you? And you do it that very lean. You apply the whole lean startup, like very experiential model, you know, that, okay, let's experiment with that. Like, let's collect data, see how are people responding to this? And then it just has this ripple effect from there, you know, and people really actually feel that you care, you know, and you just provided this like really amazing space for everyone in the middle of COVID that didn't feel safe to go into co-working, but yet and also noticing that how you were highlighting your members as well on social media to bring more attention to them. So that was like, I thought that was really, really well done. Yeah, maybe if you could show us the pod, that would be great too.
Sure. One of the shout outs I'd like to do, actually, we talked about gratitude. I'd also like to shout out to Van City. We've also had they're always amazing in terms of relationship building. Their their IT structure is terrible. I really would like to do that as a public thing, but Van City is a fantastic organization, and they stepped in as well during COVID. And the room I'm sitting in now, so this is another story I could tell you. I'm just going to disconnect my monitoring machine.
And I would like to just, open it up to our panelists, our guests, anyone who would like to jump in, just ask any question from Pete or any feedback or thoughts. I think Reza is talking, but you're mute. You're on mute, Reza.
I wasn't talking, I was listening.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Anyway,
yeah, go ahead.
This room I'm sitting in, I'll give you an out-the-door perspective. This was our meeting room before, and when Mara was the member I talked about, moved out of that office, she's like, hey, our company is really tight right now. That was great, but we can't afford that. I'm like, oh, right, but I don't want to lose you, Mara. What's your budget? What can create? So we created this meeting room. We put a wall. This is now a wall behind me, and we created a micro office behind. So we kept a customer because she didn't want to leave, but she couldn't afford it, but I couldn't afford to lose her. So it's like, okay, so this is, welcome to Squamish, by the way. This is today's view. And this is a shipping container. And here's a little bit of luck. Reza talked about a little bit of luck. The shipping container, I just wanted a shipping container before I opened the comment. I'm like, it was really cheap. I'll just buy it. Something will happen. That something happened turned into my business part at the time, was working for a company out of the US who was working for Crankworks. And they're like, hey, do you know anybody with a shipping container? Because we need one for Crankworks. I'm like, oh, that's random. So that was another story. That's how this shipping container came here. So this conference room then got divided through the help of Van City grant. So we have now Mara, that's Mara with her feet up. That's, and there's another office there. And so hopefully you're still with me. These are now the office pods.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Looks good.
And this is the garden space. And so during COVID, I bought this so that we could have meetings inside, sort of undercover. And, that sort of $400 investment, I think, managed to bring in a couple of entrepreneurs because it was raining one day, and there was a business deal that got made underneath that $400 piece of. So it's funny how COVID created this need and happened to work out really well, I'd say.
I love that.
Wow.
I thank you so much. There's a lot more I want to, ask you about, but I think, Hussein probably has, you unmuted yourself. Is there something that you want to share or comment or feedback?
Well, so you bought this container and you set up the space, or did you have the idea before? Like how did the idea come about? I'm just curious.
The idea for the co-working space?
Yeah.
So about 7 years ago, and this is still my inspiration for a co-working space. No, I don't think I've ever seen anywhere, and it's what I'm trying to do here at the Common, is I was in Utrecht in the Netherlands and went into a co-working space. I knew nothing about co-working spaces. This space included lunch for free, like the membership was free, and it was the corporations that were paying for it. So it was like the BNP Paris, like HSBC, they were renting out the meeting rooms and they were paying for the entrepreneurships, and all the entrepreneurs who are like trying to, shit, I can't afford that $25, $30 a day. Like, how do I do it? They're like, don't worry, we've already made it. We've already made our money. We'll help you. And I think that's the bit I'm trying to see how that's going to flourish in Vancouver and around the world. So that's one of my struggles with, say, certain aspects of that community. It's like we're trying to feed off the bottom when we should be just feeding off the top and giving to the bottom, if that makes sense. So how that started, that was fast forward a bunch of years. There was a company called Startup Squamish with a guy called David Cruz and Mario Gomez. They did really well, but they were 5 years too early. I did their lean startup program with Sean Lum out at UBC, and then fast forward again a few years, I moved to Squamish. There wasn't anything here. There was that missing gap. then I had a terrible breakup with a girlfriend. She sent me over the rails. I was like, I need to get over. So I thank her. So if she's ever listening to this, I want to thank you. And it was literally like, okay, I need to get out of the house. So ironically, everybody wants to get out of the house right now. That's what was me 3-4 years ago, whatever it was. I needed to get out of the house, not because of COVID, but because of my own sort of entrepreneurial dreams that were going nowhere. And the shipping container story just happened to coincide. So I wanted to open the co-working space. In fact, this is a funny story too. So how this actually came about is that I went to a business meeting group of coffee in Squamish, and I didn't really know what this group was about. And I walk in, and it's up in a sort of arty studio, and I'm listening to, and all I can hear these lots of girls' voices. I'm like, have I gone to the right place? I'm sure this was a business meeting, coffee meeting. And I walk up the stairs, and I'm like, oh my God, there's 20 women, and they all turn around and go, hi. And I'm like, oh, hi, have I come to like the right? They're like, yes, you have, but you're the first guy that's ever come to this meeting. So I'm like, okay, great. I sit down, and it just so happened that I'd walked past this building a few weeks before. And by this point, I'd already had in my head, like, I want a business downtown so I can get out of my house. I need routine. I need this. So it was a bit of that vision board thing where I want something. And this woman came upstairs and she said, if anybody wants to buy an acupuncture business, I've got one for sale. And I'm like, I don't want an acupuncture business, but I do want your building. And so that's part of the journey of what came together, an idea, a desire, and a bit of luck, and meeting the right people at the wrong time, or the wrong people at the right time. I don't know.
Nice. We got to make the show into a 3-hour show now. I think all these conversations could be like an hour each, but we want to kind of keep it down and compress it down, hopefully an hour, a little bit more than that. So Pete, I want to thank you for the tour and letting us know what's going on in beautiful Squamish, and really looking forward to seeing the next step once post-COVID, once things get back to whatever normal is the next new normal that we have. And while you were talking there, I did take a quick look on Startup Squamish, and I saw really they've been inactive since 2015. So with Startup Vancouver, who knows, not to put too much on your plate, but with Startup Canada, we're always expanding. We've talked about Squamish before. Who knows, maybe the common, when things become, we can gather again. Who knows, maybe you can have one of these beautiful red signs that says Startup Squamish on it and be part of our amazing network across the country. And what you have with the common would be an amazing physical space to help facilitate that. So no pressure, but just plant that seed, and we'll have that conversation later. So Maryam and Peter, thank you so much for that. And now I want to turn it over to Hussein and Reza. I'm looking forward to this conversation too. So gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you. I do have a quick comment for Peter. Love the pods, and you mentioned something that I think is very important. I've heard before people say that every business is also a media business. I don't like that as much as saying community building business, because every business has a customer. You've got to build a community around them, and that's the real asset. And you mentioned it, so thank you. That's something for all of us to remember. Hussein, I relate to I was reading about you a little while ago, and I relate to your story a lot. You've got the podcasting mic, you've got the setting, you're entrepreneur at heart, having, your hands, on different sectors. It's the true entrepreneurship DNA. And you're the co-founder of Traction Health. Can you tell us about your story and how you became the co-founder of this company?
So Anthony, who's the founder of Traction Health, Anthony King, did come to Launch Academy, I think in 2016, and he came and became one of the entrepreneurs that was incubated at Launch Academy, which I used to manage and as a general manager. And he attended the LEAP. At the time, it was called the LEAP program, and now we call it Launch Your Startup program. So he attended that, and that was kind of the starting of his journey in a different direction. By midway through the program is 5 weeks. By midway, he raised his first round, and he moved forward on what he wanted to do. And it started a relationship between me and him, having a conversation. The fun thing is in my latest podcast, which is going to come out, I think, in the next several weeks, he told me that the first meeting did not leave him very impressed with me. I was busy with my phone rather than talking to him, which was actually horrible to hear. But that kind of early beginnings that were not really nice, even though I don't remember myself being that rude. But anyway, that's what he said. I have to believe him. So we ended up having a good relationship as an advisor for his startup. It's basically what I call sushi advising. We loved sushi together. So every time he comes to Vancouver he used to work down the States or Toronto, he comes to Vancouver, we go get sushi, and he asks me whatever he wants on wherever he's stuck with his startup. And recently, kind of that relationship grew, and I was asked to become a co-founder in the company, mainly because I do believe in the direction that Traction Health is going. It's Anthony always worried about in the lab we can actually measure the performance of people, and kind of check their vital signs, know how they're doing, what state they're in. And his thing is, how do we take that out of the lab? How do we take it and implement it in real life? So what started as an obsession of performance and measuring performance in real life became something bigger, where right now it's more about performance is very important. We think we linked performance sometimes to athletes. We link them to people who are let's say at the top level of their let's say body state and life. But performance is very important in every element of life. For example, we're focused right now on safety performance, where if you're not performing well at work, so for example, if you're a little bit sick or there's something going on, imbalance in your body, you can be a security or a safety risk for everyone. Let's say in manufacturing, you're in a high kind of challenging area, where in high risk area, you're holding on to equipment that is heavy or managing some equipment. Your state, a fall there can actually injure you and injure a lot of people. So what started an obsession with that's what Traction Health is focused on. And what we've been able to produce, for example, we have an insole that measures all your vital signs and takes it, and we can analyze it. And also what we call a network of elements, the performance. So there's what we call the exoskeleton, the nervous exoskeleton system, or exonervous system, sorry. And what we do is we measure a lot of the vital signs, and so we can predict if somebody's going to fall or if they actually fell, and connect that across all of the organization, so that you can manage your the safety and performance of the workplace in a manufacturing setting. Right now, that's our
very
area of focus.
interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Go on.
so that's an area of focus. And what we also impacted, we're playing right now we're going after with our new product called SoSafe. We're going after businesses like restaurants and helping them stay open during COVID and keeping their customers safe. So how do you manage the flow of customers to continue to manage safety and to continue to manage the business during that? So it's very exciting. I love the combination of wearable technology and the thinking behind that, and that's the area we're playing in.
Jose, that's very interesting, because both my dad, my uncles, and my grandfather, they all come from manufacturing backgrounds. So I remember when I was kind of involved, I remember the data we had based on the output, and the productivity was very limited based on the actual sales or the output. So we knew what's the highest our workers or our team, and we had team A, team B, team C, different shifts, and we knew what they can produce at their record, but we didn't know if they weren't feeling good one day or if they were tired. We couldn't measure any of that. So this is very impressive. I want to ask, and I'll let Maryam ask her question after this. I want to ask you about hardware and software business, because the moment you go towards a hardware startup, it gets very challenging very quickly.
Yes.
All of a sudden, there are so many other things in play. How did you guys go through that? How did you guys overcome those challenges?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I was very eager to work with Anthony, because he brings a very unique skill set. He's an inventor, so he actually plays around with. Uh, when I was talking with him from young age, he basically breaks breaks shit. So he's like, anything that he gets his hands on, immediately breaks it apart. Likes to kind of find out how it works. Even one time we were at our lawyer's office, and it was like we had a conferencing system that was a pretty expensive conferencing system. I don't know how we looked away, and suddenly Anthony is breaking breaking that conferencing system, like looking how it works. I was like, how did you take it off? And kind of took off the screen. Thankfully was able to put it back. It was like, I think it's a $40,000-$50,000 system. Thankfully we didn't pay for it. So he's always playing with his hands and trying to kind of build stuff. So I think hardware is probably one of the hardest things you can go into, because suddenly you're hit with immediate limitations of material. Not only that, you have the material. So when you were building an install, one of the challenges is, so you can have the idea, but then you hit the limitations of the physical world, where can you find the material that can actually deliver based on what you want it to deliver? Can you find the sensors at certain sizes, for example? And if you do, can you find the manufacturers who will be willing to do that for, let's say, at a certain number? So economies of scale play a huge role in this. So these are layers of complexity that does not exist in software. I mean, not to take away from software, obviously it has its own limitations, but you can fairly put together a prototype in software fairly quickly, but you can't do that in hardware. So and can you actually produce? The question becomes, can you actually do it? Not just is it going to sell? So these are some of the things. So yeah, it does increase the complexity. We're lucky to have Anthony lead the charge here, and he was able to create with using 3D printing, create kind of a module that is quite impressive. And that's why it took a long time to get to where we are today. Where we
And it
actually,
adds
yeah,
complexity, but it's more rewarding at the same time, and the barrier to entry is higher. So that's why a lot of VCs I've seen, they gravitate towards strong teams with a hardware that they can pull it
yeah.
off, because then competition is less. Maryam, you want to jump in? Go on,
Yeah.
chime in.
So yeah, actually, I was saying it's a great project, and I've done some research around this, wearable insole, and look at different competitors, look at the competitive landscape. I'm not really seeing a photo of your insole on your site, and I'm also wondering
It's a
who are
secret.
some of your, it's a secret, right? Who are some of perhaps your competitors, and what are you measuring? And around privacy, because I have talked to workers who are not willing to actually wear them, are afraid that what's going to be reported, something around their insurance, and perhaps losing their job might be one, or they don't want really that their health data being captured and their employer to be like hovering kind of like over them. So that were some of
Yeah.
the issues. I'm wondering how you're tackling that. And yeah.
Great questions. So I think in regards to the insole itself, it measures most of the vital signs like temperature, weight, balance between the feet, for example. It's a lot of indicators of how you stand. So if you compare them to the watch, for example, any kind of wearable, it can measure very limited compared to when you're standing. The feet actually are holding all the balance. So for example, if you're a little bit imbalanced, it can indicate something. So it measures a lot of these vital signs, weight, the temperature, kind of pulse, all of a lot of things. This is where Anthony is more of an expert than me, and yeah, there are some competitors, but nothing anywhere close to what we've been able to accomplish, mainly because the way it's a very hard problem to solve. And I think the biggest thing is that Anthony has been working on this for now 5 years. So it's hard problem to solve. And as you said, there's a lot of challenges as well that comes, especially with privacy. And that's where one of the skill set that I bring is blockchain area. So we're exploring how do we give, let's say, for example, let's say certain elements about your health. So can we give a warning without actually revealing the exact challenge that, or the exact information? So a technology called zero knowledge proof, where you can actually give proof of something or give an indication of something without actually revealing the knowledge itself. So I can reveal that your temperature is higher than a threshold that you require, let's say, you to be isolated or something, but without revealing what that temperature is. So giving you the ability to do that. So this is where we're exploring. Obviously, privacy is a very, very important element. And when we have health data, privacy becomes a top of mind of people. So I understand the concern, and we're exploring in those areas. We haven't yet, I haven't say that we've solved it, but I think that's an area where it's the next, let's say, frontier for us after now kind of mastering the install and the hardware. We're going into how do we protect people's privacy? How do we make sure that we can still provide them with safety, provide them with elements of performance, but protect privacy? And that's the area where we're working on right now.
Thank you, Jose. I want to be mindful of time, and I know
Sure.
Colin has a one more wonderful interview that we need to get to. I want to wrap it up. I was saying, tell us what keeps you up at night these days. You've got a lot of different businesses you're involved. Some of them you're involved as a co-founder, like the Traction Health, and some of them you're part of an investment group, I believe. What keeps you up at night? How are you dealing with
I sleep quite quite nicely. I think the biggest thing that keeps me up at night is what do I have to deliver next day? That's probably the biggest thing. Like what do I need to deliver? How can I deliver it at a level that is high? Thankfully, I one of my approaches to kind of deal with that is finish the day having given my all. I think that's something that is helpful. And the other thing that keeps me up at night is how do I reach a level of success and that serves the people around me? So the biggest thing right now is Canada Unleashed, my project Canada Unleashed. How do I bring the ecosystem in Canada together? How do we serve entrepreneurs that are not in major cities or major centers of population? How do we reach them? How do we make sure that they have a platform? How do we connect them with investors and mentors? That is the biggest thing that is on my mind right now. So that's what keeps me up at night.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. With that, back to Colin.
Yeah, thanks so much, Reza. Thank you, Hussein. Hussein, great to catch up with you. It's been, gosh, about a year and a half since we've had a real chat. We haven't seen each other, obviously.
So overdue.
In COVID. And what you're doing with Canada Unleashed, I did see that in your profile also. We'll definitely have to connect on that because
100%.
Obviously between Startup Vancouver, all the other chapters, and some of them are quite rural and remote, and Startup Canada, there's as we know as entrepreneurs, don't try building something from scratch with a blank piece of paper. Look at ways to partner, find complementary partners and to help move you forward. So
100%.
let's definitely have a chat about that. So hopefully everybody's kept their sweet tooth intact here, because our final conversation of the day that I'm about to have is with Quest Atkinson from my hometown of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So Quest, thanks for taking the time and welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Yeah, so awesome. Well, thanks again for having me here. And I just want to quickly acknowledge all the people who've come to join us today. Some of my people have come to join. So hello to Dave and Nick. So nice to have you here. How am I doing today? Well, in truth, if I might share honestly, it's been, what are we, Tuesday now? What day is it?
It is Tuesday.
It's been a little bit of a challenging week for me, at least from a mental health perspective. I certainly have been going through the highs and sometimes the low lows, and this week has certainly not been any different for me in that regard. So it's definitely been a challenging week so far, but again, just so grateful to be here and to be even dialoguing, even even if it's just briefly around just mental health and entrepreneurship, and hearing from these other panelists here today.
And I'm so glad you said that. And we talk about this a lot on the show and through, as I mentioned earlier, with our mental health awareness for entrepreneurs speaker event a couple of weeks ago, that still there's that stigma attached around mental health as compared to physical health. If you broke your leg or if you're not feeling well, that's no problem to take time off or let people know that. But we still feel that we can't share that. And you did. And thank you for that, because that takes courage. And you know what? It's okay to not be feeling okay. And that's natural. And sometimes it's chemical. Quite often it's chemical that's swirling around in our brains here, the way that we feel. But with chocolate, using that as a segue, I know there's certain chemical reactions and dopamine drips that are released once you put a beautiful piece of chocolate in your mouth. So let's start with your story around chocolate. So tell us how you well, just tell us about your entrepreneurial journey and your and how chocolate has helped to fuel your fire.
Yeah, so I've been running this online chocolate shop for a little over 2 years now. We recently celebrated our second birthday, so yay, we're officially toddlers now. So it's been an incredible ride for me. I did end up starting the business right when I was, let's call it elbow deep in the middle of a professional chocolatier program here in Toronto. And how I all got started, even in the world of chocolate, is actually I visited a Rocky Mountain chocolate shop, and you might be familiar with this chocolate shop. I'm sure they have locations all across Canada. And I always had really enjoyed watching them make the chocolates, the chocolatiers make the chocolates, dip the strawberries in the front window there. And I just thought, hey, that's a retail job and I might get to work in chocolate. And I was kind of transitioning away from my design roles. So I used to be a user experience designer before I started in the world of entrepreneurship. And I just thought, oh, I'm going to apply for this job. It's just a retail job. And I was quickly informed that you need to have some sort of educational or training background in chocolate. And I was completely gobsmacked. But of course, I did what any other human being would do. And I immediately left that shop and did a Google search and said, professional chocolatier program, Toronto. And I happened to find one here, not too far away from where I was living, and really just brought me into this world of chocolate. And it helped me to realize that, hey, I can actually have a career playing with chocolate. I mean, most people really have come to enjoy chocolate. They consume it, they enjoy the experience, but not really often is it that people even consider that you can have a career playing around with that stuff. So that seemed exciting to me. And of course, with encouragement from my husband, I just decided to take the leap. And, by that point, I was no longer on my contract job as a designer or the other jobs that I was doing. So I thought, hey, no better time than now. And I think it was integral for me that I had a partner who was completely supportive, and especially in the face of knowing that me starting a new enterprise here meant we would no longer be a dual income household. So, so the fact that he was game for that, and he was the one who encouraged me, I just thought, okay, you know what? There's this other person who believes in me. I'm going to try this. I've had an entrepreneurial spirit, for as long as I could remember, but I just never really was sure what that would look like, what kind of business I would start. And then I just thought, hey, you know what, chocolate, why not start a chocolate business? And I'm really proud to share that it's actually the main catalyst to this whole business venture for me was my mental health. And being someone who's had a decades long struggle with both depression and anxiety, I just thought, you know what, I have a passion for chocolate, a deep knowledge now around chocolate, and why not use the business as a hub or a platform to encourage others who might also be struggling. And let's be honest and real here, during this pandemic, who isn't struggling? So it's a really huge honor for me to be able to serve people and encourage them. And you might be wondering, okay, what does this have to do with encouraging people, giving people chocolate and having a chocolate business? Well, let me tell you. So a lot of what I do and a lot of time that I spend is actually writing handwritten notes. And I call these little love notes. And I actually purposely designed my business card in a way that the back of it has a blank space. So this is my business card, the front, and this is the back. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to use this as an opportunity to write little notes. of love, of encouragement. And so essentially what people will do is that there will be a little scratch heart on the back, and I'll show you an example of one so that you can see what I'm saying. And it will say something like this: I believe in you. And I do this because I've noticed that even from a stranger, the kind words of another person can really change the trajectory of someone's day. And whether it's from a loved one or someone you don't know, it really can bring light and hope to that person's day. And I've always said this, and I usually say it quite silently, but it is actually my mission through this business to, if I can use this business to change someone's mind about harming themselves or from ending their life just by a kind note or a chocolate that I've prepared for them, then I feel like my joy will be complete. And maybe I'll never know if that happens because maybe people won't share that with me. But I can say this, that to date, I've had countless people reach out to me. And it usually comes at a time when I'm struggling. And I know all the other entrepreneurs on here are going to agree with me. There are going to be times when you're just like, I give up. I don't want to do this anymore. Does that happen to you? It happens to me at least once a week.
Absolutely, happens all the time. Sometimes
All the
multiple
time.
times a day. I think everybody here, Miriam's got her hand up, so I know it's she's feeling the same way too.
Yeah,
Everybody is. That's part of the journey, right?
Yeah,
Hussein's
all part
smiling.
of
He's
it.
lived it. Yeah, definitely.
And I've been incredibly blessed in that every time that thought even dances through my mind, someone will have reached out to me to say, you know what, I got that note today and I really, really needed to hear that. Or, I can tell someone emailed me just the other day, and this is another day where I was just ready to just give up. And the person said, I could feel the love that you put into everything, the way it was wrapped, the way that it was created. It was just really a lovely experience. And I'll never forget this one particular story of this girl who's ordered several products from us over the years. And she's collected these little notes. And she took I'm going to get a little bit misty-eyed, but she took a picture and she shared it with me. And she said, Quest, I wanted to share this with you. I took a picture of my fridge, and she had across her fridge, she had all of these little notes. And she said, every morning I wake up and I look at this fridge to feel encouraged. And when I hear stories like that, I think, it's so worth it, because all the pain and the joys and the blood, the sweat, the tears, everything, losing hair, whatever it is, when you hear stuff like that, you just know that you're fulfilling your purpose. And I'm just so honored that I get to do that. So yes, I get to play with chocolate for a living, but even better than that, I get to bring hope and encourage other people and love on them. And I'm just so honored to be able to do that.
Wow, love this. Well, you very eloquently answered and passionately answered my next three questions. So kind of check all those boxes. But that was that's right. See ya. Bye-bye. One of the things I was gonna, and I'll just expand on this, what you touched on, is your love for chocolate. Just like a lot of the entrepreneurs I meet, especially in the sports space, whether they're in golf or whether they're in surfing, they love that thing and they're really high level performers at that, but they don't understand either the business model or what their secret sauce is or their secret recipe or the thing that they're doing. And you expanded on that and said the sense of community and your why, your purpose, right? What your North Star, what you're building culture around. And chocolate is just really the delivery system, the conduit for that magic to happen. So on the actual chocolate side, because from what I can understand, not being in that industry, I mean, it's a massive industry, but also it's probably hyper competitive and difficult to kind of differentiate yourself from the noise and the big brands that are out there. How have you, besides what you've already shared with us, Quest, managed to kind of separate yourself with your product offerings from everybody else that's out there?
Yeah, Colin, you're absolutely right. It can be definitely an oversaturated space, especially here in Toronto and even in BC. I'm sure that you can walk down the street and see several well-known chocolate shops, even in BC. And I think, when I started this business, of course, the catalyst was really the why. Why am I doing this? And I think I am aware of my competitors and I'm aware of what makes my business unique, but I've not really focused on that. I've just focused on my why and continuing to fulfill my purpose. But to answer your question directly, what makes me different? Well, first and foremost, it's not often that you'll walk into a chocolate shop and you'll know that that item is being made just for you. So when people order off of our website, it's made to order. So Maryam, if you ordered from us, you can just be assured that that item is being handcrafted with heaps of love, and I like to say lots of sass, right from start to finish, the way it's wrapped and everything. I take so much care to do that, because at the end of the day, when you get that item, I want you to feel in that moment, wow, I'm valued. Wow, I'm special. Wow, I'm so loved. So that's the first thing. And I've never seen any other chocolate shop do that. The other thing too is we come up with really unique confections. So we're not, you're just, the average run of the mill chocolate shop. We do certainly have some sassy things, and I'll give you one example. So just for Valentine's Day recently, we had this chocolate lolly, and you may have seen it on my Instagram, but it was a pair of boxer briefs, and it had little hearts and XOs and whatever. And the joke was, have the guy in your world feel like a supermodel, like that CK model. And it's the whole point is to make people smile, and again, to feel loved and to have a wonderful experience with chocolate. So it's not just about making the regular stuff that people have come to know and love, but really about elevating those things so that people can have a unique experience with chocolate. Another thing that I'll share really quickly that we really enjoy making are these chocolate shoes. So they're these men's dress shoes, and they're beautiful. They come in a shoebox and everything. And I've had countless guys tell me, and females who have received them as well, they keep telling me, I cannot bring myself to eat this thing. So, it's all about having these unique confections that really delight people and give them pause, right? It's all about giving people that pause before just gobbling it up, that they spend some time with it. And I can see people also doing that with our paintings. So I make heaps of chocolate paintings. And very recently, I've been commissioned to do several paintings. And so essentially I handcraft chocolate canvases and I paint them with cocoa butter, which is essentially an item that comes from the cacao bean, which is where we get our chocolate from. And sometimes I do these live on Instagram so people can follow along, or if they feel inspired, they can paint along with me. But hey, I don't see anybody else doing that. So you tell me, Colin.
You are definitely putting yourself out there in a very unique, authentic, honest way, and being consistent about that. And I've looked at what you're doing on Instagram and social media, and you're definitely telling stories. So it's not about you, it's about more than that. And you are creating community, which is amazing. I know that the show running a little bit over, so we'll go a few minutes over today. I know, Reza, you have your hand up, my friend. You've got a question here. You've been waiting to jump in, so go for it, Reza.
Wes, you said something I really love, and to me it seems like the chocolate is a vehicle for a bigger purpose you're going for. A lot of people become what they do, and they get wrapped into that product or service or business, and they lose sight of what their true values are and what's the philosophy behind it and their why. But I love how you see chocolate as a vehicle, because everybody loves chocolate, but then how can you deliver your message through chocolate? And then you're bringing happiness to people, you're bringing these, messages. So I just love that, because there are oftentimes, I'm in the business card, sector, and oftentimes people just think, it's all about the card we create and the product and the features. And I'm like, no. I'm thinking bigger than that. And when I hear stories, that's what motivates me to keep going, despite other people focusing on the just the product or just the mundane stuff. I had to step away for a second, but I was listening that you showed your business card. I missed that. I would love to see what you're doing with those cards.
Yeah, for sure. So just to show it again, this is the front of my business card. And the back has been designed purposely to be left blank so that I can write these little handwritten notes. And there will be a little scratch card. So people have to actually, remember back in the day?
Yeah,
those
little, like scratchy. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like lottery. I don't know. I don't play the lottery, but some like bingo cards or whatever.
Yes.
And I'll have a little note like this. And this is just one example of one of the notes I write. It's whatever my heart is telling me in that moment. What does Reza need to hear right now? And maybe I don't even know you. Sometimes on the other end, I don't know the customer, but it's just whatever my heart is telling me in that moment that I feel like that person might need to hear. And guess what? Hands down, every time a person will come back and say, I needed that today. So I'm grateful.
Nice. Love it.
I know Reza well enough that even though what you're doing, that handcrafted gesture is so thoughtful, just like meeting in person is so much better than what we're doing here, even though this is what we have right now during COVID. But as you see here with his brand on his chest there with Ovu, I'm sure his mind is already swirling about ways with the digital business cards.
I want to
and everything else.
incorporate that. I want to steal that idea and incorporate it in a digital way, because there's so much meaning and power behind it. We have it on our packaging. Inside every packaging, there's a different message. Every 50 of them, it just changes. So every customer sees a different messaging in there. And I want to incorporate what you're doing for them to do it with their clients.
You know,
Well, I'm so grateful I got to inspire you today.
Well, it could be even more than that. You never know. There could be some business relationship that we're about relationships.
Yeah.
We're like love connection here. We're like the Tinder for entrepreneurship. And maybe with what Ovu's doing there, who knows, as you scale.
You can do some
But
augmented reality, maybe.
there we go. Well, that could be, as long as that's still safe for work. That's the key. But we'll be careful with that. So, you know what? We can keep going on here for some time. But you know what? Why don't we kind of wrap things up here for today? And I do want to thank everybody that's actually joined us here today. These have been amazing conversations. And as I promised or threatened, depends on how you look at this, since we did have a donation today, that means one thing. And that one thing is I do a little musical shout out. And what I do goes a little something like this. Nice donation by you. Jack.org says, thank you. You are awesome, Quest Atkinson. Yeah, that's you, Quest. Nice donation by you. There
Let's
we go.
harmonize.
There we go. There we go. I could use all the help I can get. So with that, hey, you know what, for today, Maryam, why don't we turn it over to you to close out the show for us here?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I just wanted to just do a little plug-in that I shared a message in the chat. And so everyone, if we could just take 2 minutes to fill out that form, and I will send it back to you, Colin, to send it to your, the community on Twitter. Well, thank you so much, everyone. There was a lot of good, lot of knowledge that was just shared today, and just it was amazing to be in your presence and feeling the energy from everyone, and everyone's like doing amazing. The energy is super high here, so thank you for being with us for this hour, and hopefully that's going to have a impact for the rest of your day and for your week, and that will energize you. And tune in next week, next Tuesday at noon, and we're going to spend another hour with a lot of creative people here. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here today, and we look forward to hearing from you next week.
Amazing. Thanks so much. Have a
Thank
great
you,
week, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for
Bye.
having me. Love you all. Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Great day.